So, good afternoon. Sadly, my colleague Michal Cohen could not present here in person, and she could not do the talk that was planned because of the availability of flights from and to Israel and currently rare situation and very high costs of them. Therefore, I will take up myself this burden, and I will give a similar talk of what I have given at the Siapava conference 3 months ago in Solo in Indonesia. I will start with my personal journey from the mathematics and computer science to the restoration of moving images. Then I will try to explain that AI is neither artificial nor intelligent. On the contrary, I will show you that there is a big need to correctly train the machine in order to get out of it good results. And finally, I will spend some time on our findings. Let's start with how I went from the mathematics and computer science to moving image restoration. In summer 1975, that's almost half a century ago, as an adolescent I started programming in COBOL on the mainframe in my father's office. In spring 1979, a friend of mine started building a computer, and I programmed in assembly and later in C the software for it. And in October 1983, that's more than 40 years ago, as a student in mathematics at the EPFL, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, I started exploring machine learning. I coded in Prolog how a chessboard looks like, how the pieces move, and what was the goal of the game, but not how to play chess. And I started the program on a Friday afternoon, and on the following Monday morning, the program was able to open correctly and to do the two first moves in an intelligent way. This has been my first experience of machine learning using backtracking, and the result is called an expert system. 15 years later happened many events that have changed definitively my personal interest as well as my professional work. It opened for me totally new horizons to explore in order to improve the conservation and restoration of the audiovisual heritage. In 1998 was published Anil Kokaram's fundamental book on motion picture restoration that describes many digital algorithms for artifact suppression in degraded motion picture films and videos. The same years, I also had the chance to start working with Chris Kodosiewski in the Digital Film Lab in Copenhagen. In 2001 was released Diamant, the first piece of software for moving image restoration, and the same year also took place the Preserved and Show conference, again in Copenhagen, where I could meet many people that were fundamental for my future professional evolution. In 2004, that's 20 years ago, I founded my own company after having been head of preservation at the Cinémathèque Suisse, the Swiss National Film Archive, in charge of cataloging, conservation and restoration of the film collections. From the beginning, we worked both photochemically and digitally, trying to benefit from the good sides of both worlds and trying to avoid the bad sides of both worlds. 10 years later, we organized our fifth and last one-week school, which was devoted to additive color systems and working beyond the classic RGB color space. And finally, since 7 years, we are using deep machine learning for digital restoration of moving images. This working method has not replaced the other ones, but has complemented them. We publicly presented many times our results, both successes and failures. Last time in March during 2 of our free and public reports of the field sessions, and in June at the Siapava conference. I will now give you a short introduction on some of the basics of what is reunited under the umbrella of AI. Artificial intelligence was founded as an academic discipline in 1956, and since then, that's almost since 70 years, the field went through multiple cycles of great optimism and deep pessimism. The term intelligence is difficult to define, and what should be an artificial intelligence is even more complicated. I let others with that. In my personal opinion, the term is inappropriate because it's neither intelligent nor artificial. But here are a few considerations about the requirements. The ability to learn is a key requirement for an AI system, and this must be planned and integrated from the beginning on, because it cannot be implemented later on in an efficient way. A second main criterion is the ability of an AI system to deal with uncertainties and probabilities, including probabilistic information. Last but not least, we as humans must always keep control over the machine. In the slide background, you see the two layers of a fully connected neutral network and its expression as a tensor-Kronecker product. In some situations, working with multispectral moving images has not only the advantage to give us a better representation of the source material that survived, but also to allow us to apply new restoration techniques. We work usually with 15 bands. That means that the scanner generates 5 times the data volume of a regular RGB imaging, and we had to find ways to process such a big volume of data. However, this was not my unique inspiration. The idea to find new ways to process digital restoration more efficiently came many years ago while listening to a presentation at the Real Sync conference, technical conference in Hollywood. A person presented a restoration and explained that because the founding was limited, they restored better the parts of the image where the spectator is focusing on. That's, of course, a very fascist idea. Why the hell should I, as a restorer, decide where the spectator has to look at? But the idea to work only on some parts of the image was intriguing indeed. We tested supervised, semi-supervised and unsupervised deep learning techniques. We ended up by using only supervised training of artificial neural networks, or more generally a deep machine learning method. This opened totally new horizons of film and video restoration. In practice, we choose the most damaged part of the most damaged color band, and then we restore them manually, usually using the proprietary software Diamant. The data truth generated is processed by the AI system, which orders it in multidimensional arrays. These are the training data for a specific project, and the new data enrich the existing ones of the AI system. These structured data are then processed by mathematical formulae, and we do this in a supervised mode in order to detect as early as possible the errors. The calculation requires an enormous computing power that today, de facto, can only be provided by graphic cards. Then we tell the computer to apply the same rules in Diamant, firstly to the whole band and secondly to all the other bands. We always check the result. If we are not happy with the solution provided by the machine, then we force the machine to follow our will. This way, project after project, the system becomes more and more reliable. As said, I have used Diamant since a beta was released, and from the beginning, this proprietary software has offered the ability to write your own plugins and to extend its built-in capabilities. And of course, I used this possibility. For example, back in 2001, Diamant could only process black and white images. And I programmed a plugin for the 3 color channel management representing both the additive RGB color model and the so-called subtractive cyan, magenta, yellow. Diamant supports OpenFX, an open standard for creating visual effect plugins, which is widely used. Therefore, integrating custom software is a quite simple task. In the slide background is the structure of an artificial neuron with its components from the left to the right: input, weight, transfer function, request, activation and threshold, and activation. I will conclude my today's presentation with a few positive and negative experiences we made in the field of machine learning, specifically applied to restoration of moving images. We could never have realized some of our projects without an intensive use of these new tools. If the technology is used intelligently, then the machine is really at the service of the humans and not the contrary. We as humans can focus on the parts that are intellectually more challenging and therefore more interesting, and let the machine do the boring stuff. I wish to be absolutely clear with you. This is expensive. There are not open source tools available yet which allow to work efficiently in moving image restoration using machine learning and database decision making. We tried TensorFlow and Torch, but ended up working with the property Wolfram Mathematik in the beginning and designing and training our own system later on. We still work with OpenMP, Open Multiprocessing, for the parallelization. I was lucky enough to be able to hire a woman who is not only a proven programmer, but has also a good knowledge of both historic and contemporary film and television technology. A blessing. And this woman is Michal Cohen, who could sadly not travel to Karlsruhe for this No Time to Wait conference. Do not forget that many of our projects could progress from a dream to the reality only through mastering this technology. It was certainly a lot of work, pain and sometimes frustration, but it was also a very exciting adventure. And indeed, we will continue this path, that's for sure. And this concludes my today's presentation. As usual, the slides are available on our website. And thank you very much for your attention, and back to you, Caroline.
Thanks so much, Reto. We have a scheduled break, but I think we can allow ourselves quick questions if they arise, if anybody has any burning.
Otherwise, you can ask me outside.
Or we can take it to the coffee break room and talk over coffee. There is one, yes.
Thank you for your interesting talk. I just wanted to, I didn't understand whether you made the software from scratch or whether you used an existing software that you trained differently.
We worked with Diamant as the main software.
Is that
a proprietary software that you can buy.
Okay.
But this software has an interface, and with this interface we could add our artificial intelligence.
Okay, yeah,
and
thank you.
This artificial intelligence at the beginning was made with Wolfram Mathematik, that's a proprietary software, but later on we started building our own and programming our own to have the full control. We tried to do that I mentioned, especially Torch. We worked a lot with Torch, but it couldn't not do exactly what we wish at the moment. But I think it's just a matter of 1 or 2 years, and then we will switch to probably Torch, which is open source.